What is going on, friends and fellow artists? This is Matt, aka Mr. E in 3D. And guys, in today's video we are going to be completing our third original character, Aros the Elf Spellsword. Now in a couple seconds I'm going to jump into Blender 4.0. I will show you guys the process that I went through to model out his body. I will turn that into a time lapse with some commentary just like I've done in the past couple videos. I will then immediately jump over to the posing process, get him finished up, get him into position, come back out to the camera, and show you guys the final 3D printed figurine, fully painted and ready for display. This is a little bit different than the process that I've gone through with my other videos. I am trying to streamline the process, get these videos done a little bit faster because I have a lot of characters, a lot of props that I want to get done, and I just want to get to them as quickly as possible. So without further ado, let's jump into the software and let's get started. Okay guys, looking over the generic body that I created in a previous video for all of my projects, I'm going to make a couple last minute decisions, and then I'm going to go down to the legs and start creating some loop cuts. I'm going to hit Control R, go into wireframe mode, hit B to box select a couple of those loops, and then I'm going to scale them out to create the baggy pants for Aros. Now for this project, I'm actually working a little bit in reverse to what I would typically do. Typically I would start with the top of the body and then work my way down to the legs. But considering a lot of Aros' armor is going to have to be created individually, I'm just going to do as much work as possible on this generic body and save myself some time later on. Here I'm just creating the soles of Aros' boots by adding a couple loop cuts, selecting the lower one, hitting S to scale, and pulling them in. I'm going to do a little bit more work here around the top of the boots to create some calves, and then I'm going to go up to the belt line, select all of the faces around, hit E to extrude, and then S to scale out the belt. Now at this point, I'm just working my way up the body and adding as many details as possible before I go about adding his armor. Now I had previously added these specific faces for his abs, and I'm just going to hit E to extrude them out. This process I have to be very careful because I have that center line created and I have clipping turned on. You can't bring these faces too close together in the middle or they will pinch and create a very weird looking single face on both sides. Now offline I'll do a little bit more work, I'll give these guys some TLC, and I'll have them looking good for the final model. At this point, it's time to start the chest plate. I'm going to go ahead and add a plane to the environment, size it, I'm going to split it down the middle, delete the left side, add a mirror modifier, and then use the K for knife utility to carve out all the details of the phoenix. As I delete the extra faces, you can see that I only extrude the center tail feather down along his stomach. Now you could technically extrude out the others as well, but I want to make sure that all adjustments to the chest plate positioning are done so that I can draw those tail feathers out as close to his sides and ribs as possible. At this point, I am simply adding some connecting vertices and lines to the rest of the shape of the phoenix so that it smooths the shape out when I go to wrap it around his actual chest. Now that I have a pretty good idea of where the chest piece is going to sit, I'll go ahead and start extruding out those other tail feathers. With the model complete, we subdivide the surface and extrude it straight out into a three-dimensional object. I'll do some final forming here as far as the shape and get the wings ready for detailing. Now it's time to detail out the feathers. I'm going to go ahead and select these randomly so that each face is distinct. Following that, I'll go ahead and I will select all of the front faces of the phoenix, and I will extrude that out as well so that it looks like the feathers themselves were carved out of the overall shape. I'm going to go ahead and select the Relational Edit button at the top center of the screen. This will allow me to manipulate a larger area of the model around the selected faces or vertices, and this should help me wrap up the scaling of the chest plate to the body so we can move forward to other parts of his armor. Now I'm going to add another plane to the environment, and we are going to start forming out his shoulder pauldrons and his arm guards. Now here I'm going to add a creative change from the original concept, and I've decided that I'm going to add feathers to both his pauldrons and his arm guards, which didn't appear in the original sketch. Now that it's subdivided and in position, I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift D to duplicate the model. And I'm going to slide it down his arm just a little bit, and I'm going to create the arm plate based off of this model. Now this is going to save me a lot of time, and after I get it shaped, I'll go back to the pauldron and I'll create the pointed end that is specific to his shoulder blades. I'm going to start his gauntlets just like I created his belt, by creating a loop, extruding, and then scaling that out all the way around his forearm. Now for the back of the gauntlets, I decided to make another creative change from the concept. I decided that I wanted the back of his hands to be armored to look like birds' talons, and here, somewhat on the fly, I'm using the K for knife utility to draw out and shape those designs. Now this was definitely an adjustment I was happy with, and it's pretty simple and easy to accomplish. After this, I decided I had one more creative change I wanted to make from the concept, and I decided to add feathers to the back of his gauntlets, just like his arm guards and his pauldrons. I'm going to go ahead, add a plane to the environment, and get his cape created. Now I've done a full video on capes previously, so I'm not going to go into detail here, but the process is pretty straightforward and it's self-explanatory. Just add a plane, add some lines, get it formed the way you want, and then extrude it out into a 3D object. Now that we are nearing the end of the modeling process, I'm going to go ahead and add his leg plates. Now, these leg plates are pretty basic, they're not decorated, and that's actually a design choice. I said in the concept sketch that Aros is very vain and conceited. He wants attention drawn to his face and chest. For him, he wants these leg plates generic as to not detract any attention from where he doesn't want it. So for this, I was really trying to stay true to the character with this simple design. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. At this point in the process, I was kind of getting tired and feeling lazy. I had been modeling this character all day, and I was pretty worn out. But they do say work smarter, not harder. Here, I simply highlighted the faces of the Phoenix Talons on the gauntlets and copied them over so that I could shrink them down, get them into place, and add them to his chest plate. Now, despite what I just said about his leg plates, at the very end of the process, I did take a look at his boots and decided I just wasn't happy with how plain they were. So I went back in, added some more loop cuts, extruded them, scaled them out, and then added a couple more details around his heels and toes to make the boots, in my opinion, finally look like they match the character. Now, as I mentioned previously, I have decided that moving forward, I'm just going to go ahead and pose these characters following completion of the modeling. So after a day-long break, I did come back to my saved, unposed model and began getting him ready for printing. Now, I mentioned this before, and I'm sure I will again. I always start with my character modeled in a T-pose, and I save that file separately so that if I decide I want to revisit it again, I can go to that file and create a new pose or make any additional modifications or changes that I desire. Aros is probably one of the easiest characters I've ever posed. There really weren't a lot of changes necessary to get him into position like the concept sketch. The key throughout the process was making sure that I made subtle changes to his fingers, arms, and posture so that he both looked natural in his stance as well as dynamic. Now, this really is personal preference, but I have always created the neck of the character during the posing process. It's not really for any particular reason. I really do feel that it's primarily out of habit. It could be because I can really dial in on the shape of the neck and the position once I have the character primarily posed. Honestly though, I really do think this is just one of those personal choices. Lastly, I want to go ahead and import his sword that I created offline in another file, but once we have that positioned, I do feel that we are finally going to be done, and I'm going to be ready to show you guys the final version of the character. So guys, here he is, completed, posed, on his stand, and ready for printing. I present to you Aros, the Elf Spellsword. Alright guys, there you have it. Aros has now been fully modeled, he has been posed, he has been printed, and he has been painted. And this is the final result. Now, I'll be the first to admit I am not the best at miniature painting. I am pretty proud of what I've done here though, and I think he turned out absolutely awesome. And I do have a couple friends that are absolutely amazing at painting miniatures. I have talked to them about commissioning a possible job where they would paint all of my characters. If I can get that done, I will 100% share that with you guys. But for now, I am going to call him complete. Now moving forward guys, in my next series, I am going to be stepping out of my original character set. I'm going to be doing another pop culture build. I am going to be creating my favorite literary character of all time. I am not going to tell you who it is. You'll just have to keep watching. Following that, I'm probably going to do another prop build. I haven't done one of those in a while. I have another plan set up in the back of my mind of what I want to do. Pretty excited to see it done. Can't wait to share it with you guys. As always, like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know if you guys like the new format. I appreciate y'all so much. Have a great day.